everybody hear me?
I can hear you. It's a little quiet.
Thank you.
Hi, I can hear you now, and I have voice. Thank you.
It sounds good, Lynn.
Oh, good. So, what are the logistics? Are we going to do camera off on this? And do I have the ability to screen share, which would be really helpful?
Lynn, you should see share screen down in the bottom where the mute, start video, participants, Q&A, chat, and then screen share will be the next one over.
No, I have chat, raise hand, Q&A, live transcript, and that's it.
So it is set up for all panelists to be able to share.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that's not showing up for me. Did you want me to leave and come back, or what do you think?
Yeah, you know, I'm showing you under attendees still, even though I promoted you to panelist. So maybe that has something to do with it. If you don't mind popping out and coming back in.
Okay, I will do that.
Okay, thank you. Sorry.
No worries. Okay, that's way better. I've got the full suite now. Thanks. Whoops, now it's gone. Now it's back.
It's just when you roll your mouse over it, Lynn, you'll see it appear and disappear.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Mute,
We can hear
okay.
you.
Yep, hearing you.
Hello, this is Dawn. Can you hear me?
Hey, Don.
Hi, Don.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Hi, this is Barbara. Hi, Lynn.
Hey, Barbara. How good to hear you.
Yeah, this is Brad Nineheis. I'm on.
Hi, Brad.
Hello.
Hi, Lynn. Georgia's here.
Hey, Georgia, how good to hear you.
Yeah, good to hear you too. No video, eh? Okay.
I think we can do that at some point, but we don't want to overwhelm the system.
Oh, I see. Get everybody on.
Yeah, when you're doing the presentation, you don't want to be on video because it will definitely crash the system.
Okay, I'm happy not to be on video.
We'll give about another minute for people to get here before we get started.
This is Dan McCarn. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Georgia should be joining you very shortly.
Yeah, they know I'm here.
Okay. Oh, shoot.
Hi, this is Sean Levy. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Sean.
Hi.
Hi, Sean.
Hi.
Georgia here.
Hi, Georgia.
I want to thank everybody for taking your time out today to participate in this conversation with Santa Fe National Forest about the trails around Los Alamos. For those that I don't know, I'm Corey Starr and I'm the Community Services Director. We'll let Lynn introduce her team. Just please be mindful that if you're not raised your hand or bidding knowledge or talking, please make sure you're muted, as we don't want to hear any background sounds. So with that, Lynn, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks. I'll maybe try to do my little video thing here. I think I'm in the Pecos Wilderness somewhere. This is fun. So most everyone was planning to meet our new ranger, Sandy Imler. Sandy, you're not here by any chance? Apparently not. She had a family emergency and had to take off. So I'm taking her place as far as just talking about trails in Los Alamos. And so on our Forest Service team tonight, I'll let everyone introduce themselves. Bjorn, you want to hop on real quick? He's our supervisor's office team lead for public services.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Thanks, Lynn. So Bjorn Fredrickson, as Lynn mentioned, I'm the Public Services Staff Officer at our Forest Supervisor's Office in Santa Fe. And so I work for the Forest Supervisor and oversee the recreation, special uses, lands, minerals, and heritage programs on the forest. Hand it back to you, Lynn, to MC.
All right, thanks. So then we have Jeremy Golston jump on in here, and he's our recreation and program lead.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm Jeremy Golston. I'm the Recreation Program Manager here on the Santa Fe National Forest, and I've been in this position since May. So coming up on a year here pretty quick. I've been fortunate enough to work for the Forest Service for about 6 years on the East Coast and on the West Coast. And this is just one of my greatest pleasures and one of the reasons I joined with the Forest Service, to work with community members such as yourselves. So thank you for taking interest in your public lands, and I'll be sure to leave my contact information in the chat, or maybe Lynn can provide it out afterwards, but however you want to do that, always feel free to reach out to me. So thank you.
Hey, thanks, Jeremy. And then I've got Jennifer Sublett. She's with our district recreation team, and jump on in, Jennifer, and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Okay, well, good evening, everybody. My name is Jennifer Sublett, and I work with Lynn and Dawn. Dawn will introduce herself on the Espanola Coyote Zone District, doing trails, wilderness, volunteer coordination, special uses, etc. So great to be here. And I don't have a video option, so you'll just hear me, which is fine. Thank you.
All right, and then Don Smith, he's our assistant rec leader. She works mainly over on the Coyote side, Chama River corridor. Can you jump in and say hi?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I do not have video capabilities as well, but that's fine. Like Lynn said, I'm the rec staff assistant over here on the Coyote side of the zone, and I work with Jennifer and Lynn at the district level in our recreation program. So, developed and dispersed rec, volunteer coordinating. So yeah, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me. Back to you, Lynn.
All right, and I always kind of just forget or skip over introducing myself, and I'm Lynne Bjorkland, the rec team lead for the Espanola and Coyote Ranger districts. And I grew up in Los Alamos way back in ancient times, born while it was still a secret city. Grew up running the trails and just found it was like it was the best place in the world to run trails. I mean, they just were more trail choices than ever. And then I worked for the BLM in Nevada for 20 years and then came back in 2010 working for the Forest Service and back to the trails and the recreation that I grew up and loved so much. So we have quite a treasure here in the Los Alamos area for trails. And so we want to improve and maintain that wonderful resource. And that's probably why a lot of you guys are here. So let's see, Jennifer was asking, looks like we got 36 people on the call here. So I'm gonna turn it back to the Los Alamos County, and if you want to introduce who's there from the county and maybe give us some logistics on how people could ask questions and when, raise hand, put it on the chat, or looks like there's a Q&A. So let me turn that back to them.
So thank you. We have Linda Lindstrom as our host this evening. You want to say hi, Linda?
Hi, Linda. Hello, everybody.
We also have Parks and Rec Board Vice Chair David Hampton with us. You want to say hi, David?
Sorry about that. Hey, guys.
Thank you. And then I thought I saw another board member, Chris. There's Chris Olson. Another board member, Chris Olson, is here.
Evening, everybody.
So again, thanks everyone for attending. This event is being recorded and it is being having transcription with closed captioning. So we will have this available for future if anyone wants to review it again. This is going to be driven by Santa Fe National Forest and Lynn. We would ask that if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand. Then we'll acknowledge you to let you in. If you just want to make a comment in the chat, please don't hesitate to make a comment in the chat, and we'll kind of monitor that and try to answer any questions if you feel more comfortable doing that. I guess this is just going to be an informal. We've got a little presentation to go. This is really initiated from the Santa Fe National Forest about talking about how we can work with their trail system around our community. And then really kind of begin the conversations. We know that Sandy's pretty new in her position and I'm pretty new in our position, and we want begin to open those communication layers so we can see what we can do to help each other out as we go through this process. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Lynn, and thank you again for everyone for showing up.
All right, thanks. So my computer's saying that I have to put in a password or it will shut me down. So I'm going to concentrate on that just real quick here for a second. Of course, I have to remember it. Let's see. Okay. All right, I did it. Okay, so I'm going to share an agenda, and then I'm going to do a lot of screen sharing, it was just fun because then I hear that I need to turn my camera off so the system won't blow up, and so everybody can be looking at the screen instead of me, and I kind of like that idea. So here it goes with screen share. And I'm going to try to find, I've got a lot of things up to share. So let me make sure that, okay, I can find that as I fumble here through the Zoom. Okay, so there is, it's just like I'm not finding the actual agenda. How interesting. It's okay, show all windows. Let me try that. Okay, that helped. So as I learn Zoom on the fly, there it is. Yay. Okay, is anybody seeing an agenda on the screen?
Yes.
Yay. All right, so we've done introductions. I'm going to give just a little bit of history of the trails in Los Alamos from a Forest Service perspective, talk about our trail planning, and a little bit, just real briefly on Cerro Grande, Los Conchas, the floods, how we've been rebuilding and rebuilding. Then something that's pretty important is for folks to understand the difference between a system trail and a user trail, some of our current projects and some of our problems with illegal trail building. And then really kind of the most time on this Greater Santa Fe collaborative. What is it? Where are we? I'm going to give you some websites, some maps, show you what's coming up. And then Jennifer's going to talk about a little bit about volunteer opportunities, what we have going, what we plan to have going, and then leave some time for some questions. So anytime I switch screens, I have to stop share and then share again. So I'm going to do that. And when I'm sharing, I really can't see hands or I can't see comments. So someone else in the group could be monitoring that. That'd be really helpful. So, okay, here we go with a screen share. And there, I'm going to share a map, and there it is. Share. All right, so hopefully you'll be seeing a map of Los Alamos, and then if I can, let's see, get the actual community of Los Alamos to show up. How interesting that it's not actually showing trails. Let's see if it'll do it now. There we go. So that should maybe orient you a little bit. So now you can see the city streets. And so what you're seeing right here are all of the Forest Service system trails in green. And what you're seeing here is just about 100 miles of trails. So there's a lot. So there's a lot of Forest Service system trails that surround the county. And in here is the county. And then the county has a whole system of trails, and I will turn that on. And I may not have everyone captured, and then there's some on DOE, and then we've got Bandolier, and we've got Via. So we have a lot of trails. And I might be just a little bit out of order here, but I just wanted to talk about, well, let me go back. I'll talk about a little bit about the history. So as most of you know, the history of Los Alamos, how it was, it started out as like a school for boys ranch, and they went out and created trails. And then we had the years when the I don't know if it was called, yeah, I guess DOE, where it became the secret city, and like the land became all like government, and there was like infrastructure. There was Wahi Reservoir that was used as a water supply, I think, gosh, way back in December of it, like the date's written in the concrete there, and I have forgotten the date, but there's that old pipeline. And then Los Alamos Reservoir was used for water. And then there's just a fascinating system of history and roads and why those were built, and the trails. And back then, no one was really building sustainable trails. And then I got the great pleasure of growing up before all the fires hit, when all these trails were pine forests and really beautiful. Not that they're not now, but they're very different. And so we had, that was the Cerro Grande fire, and then we had the Las Conchas fire on top of it. So it pretty much took out the entire viewshed of Los Alamos, and it took out these trails. So most of you probably remember Craig Martin, and he did a lot in restoring the trails. Los Alamos, it has such a funny history where it just wasn't part of the Forest Service, and then it was gone back to the Forest Service. And so people kind of just were, like when I grew up, I had no idea that the land around Los Alamos was Santa Fe National Forest. I thought, okay, well, Santa Fe National Forest over in Santa Fe, it's not around Los Alamos, but it actually is. And there wasn't a lot of presence of Santa Fe National Forest around, and so that's slowly been changing. So it might be kind of like the neglected part, but we are looking to really do planning, and we want to do planning in accordance with what's really wanted by the public, in balance with taking care of the resources, wildlife, habitat, archaeology, and all of that. So when we rebuilt these trails, we're trying to do it with sustainability. And there's lots of interesting stories on that. This down here, this is the Wahi Canyon. And in, it was 2012, like a $40,000 contract where we had someone come in and try to restore this trail that was completely taken out. And I said, okay, we need to keep it out of the flood zone. They're like, oh yeah, it's out of the flood zone. But then we had, what was it? The 2013 floods, the 100-year flood event, and this just flooded it completely, took out all of that work. So a lot of these trails in here were originally built, and then they were rebuilt, and then they were rebuilt again, and sometimes rebuilt again. And so it's just amazing that the volunteer force that we have in Los Alamos, it was incredible that after these fires, everyone was calling up, okay, what can we do? How can we help? Let's get started on rehabbing it. And it's just been beautiful to watch and to be a part of. So that's a little bit of the history of what we're dealing with in Los Alamos. And so I think it was in 2018, we tried to start some trail planning with the public. And just about that time, this idea of the Greater Santa Fe Collaborative got started. And the idea kind of birthed in Arizona, where there's a lot of folks that wanted some new trails and they wanted repair on other trails. And there were different user groups. So they said, what if we just got all the user groups, all the agencies together, and we all did trail planning together? And they did that. And it was so successful that the region said, okay, let's do this someplace else. And they chose Santa Fe to be kind of the next place to try that out. And so then when we were doing it in Santa Fe, I was saying, well, we're trying to do trail planning in Los Alamos too. So why don't we broaden it? And so instead of like the Santa Fe collaborative, it became the Greater Santa Fe Collaborative. And I have a picture to show of that as well. So I'm going to just pause here a second and look at my agenda. And so you see the difference between a system trail and user trail. Okay, so let me get this out of the way. How do I do that? Okay, there we go. Okay, so let's I'm going to add some layers here to just kind of show you what's happening. We have a lot of user trails. Here's, let's see if that shows up. But in our trail planning, okay, go back to 2018. I think it was in January at the Fuller Lodge, we had our first kind of really big public trail planning meeting. I think like 75, 80 people showed up, and we talked about what the dreams were, what different people wanted. They had a lot of comments. And then we folded that meeting into the Greater Santa Fe Collaborative. And even before that, we had Craig Martin. He also was putting together kind of a dream list. So we took that and we also incorporated into the Greater Santa Fe Collaborative. And so the first year, we just started saying, okay, let's just look at all the things that people want. And so these are some of the concept trails. It's a little bit slow, but all those pink lines are some of the concept trails that people said, oh, it'd be so great if a trail could go here, 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 here. And then we also got together a group, and this group got together and they said, okay, what is the priority for, or the criteria for a new trail? And we addressed questions like, what is the balance between having enough trails, the right trails, so that we have that balance where we have wildlife that might have a nook and cranny where they can get away from people. We've got protection of cultural resources, and we have the right amount that we can do maintenance, and it can be sustainable. And too often, as you see in an area with any large population, the forest can be just loved to death, so that it's just almost loses the forest. So what is that balance? And so we tackled some of those questions and talked about it as a group. We even put together a planning criteria for that. And I'm going to go a little farther with this before I switch screens, because it's a little awkward to switch screens. So let's see, I'll turn on some of these others so that you can start to see. And it starts to look like a bowl of spaghetti after a while. There's just a lot going on. We've got proposed projects, proposed trails. We've got the the rim trail around the Via Caldera. That's here, as it came up as something that folks really want. We've got all the different the Via trails, Bandelier trails, Jemez ski trails. So as you can see, as we put more and more of these on, a lot going on. And so let's see. And then as part of this large group, we've also have like different specialists. We've got the tribes, we've got like someone from Bandelier, someone from the Via, someone from the county. And so it was kind of like the concept was trails without boundaries. So, and in Los Alamos, you change boundaries a lot, especially around town. It's like the perimeter trail. You can be starting on county, you go onto the Forest Service, then back onto the county. In certain places, you'll dip into the DOE land, especially when you get here on the 501 road. All the trail heads are on DOE, and then the trails go on to the forests. That gets a little tricky if we're not coordinated when we have fire closures, because if DOE is open and the forest is closed, then you can go like 5 feet on the trail and then you can't go any farther. Or if the forest is open and the DOE is closed, you somehow have to jump over DOE to get onto the forest. So we're trying to have like more coordination between everyone where all these trails cross, and that was a lot of part of the collaborative. And then, you know, to further kind of expand the idea of the collaborative, it wasn't limited to just trails. Like now we're branching into like what do we do with shooting groups, with conflict between shooting and where people have trails, where housing developments. And that's really active right now in the Caja area outside of Santa Fe. But you could have a youth emphasis. You could have a hunting emphasis, archaeology emphasis, wildlife emphasis. So trails is just one facet of this collaborative in recreation. So I'm going to switch screens here again and move over to another spot here. I think it will be this. So I have to kind of figure out where I'm going. So I'm looking for this.
Do you have time for a question, Lynn?
I do. I'm welcome questions anytime. So go ahead with the question.
Dan, I believe I see your hand raised. Dan, if you're talking, you're on mute.
He said nope, he doesn't have a question.
Unmute. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. I'm a hydrologist geologist. And because the basin characteristics were so badly changed due to the fires, especially the 2011 fire, the runoff coefficients were skyrocketing. And so the amount of water actually going into streams were significantly greater. So that really wasn't a 100-year flood because the rainfall didn't support it. But the amount of water coming through significantly increased.
Thank you for that comment. That's very helpful. Yes, good point. So any other and further discussion, comments on that topic?
Can you still hear me?
I can, yes, go ahead.
Okay, one of the things that I did with the fire department here in Los Alamos, with the Wildlands Fire Department, was to establish several test grass plots to look at how quickly can we regrass an area, and developed 4 or 5 different mixes of grasses, things like that. One of the concerns that I have is management of grasses over a long period of time, and how the county, how the people that are actually managing the machines to cut grass, things like that, actually understand the sensitivity of the high plains prairie grasses, which are very, they can live forever unless you cut them too short, but then they're killed, and then they erode badly. That the ground erodes badly because of that. But so as Georgia understands, Georgia Strickfaden, I've been working on that for years, and I have put together several things for the county that are rather formal presentations, 50, 60, 70 pages long, looking at grass management itself. And areas around trails, it's important to manage and maintain appropriate grasses so that it doesn't erode.
Right. Wow, that's great. Really valuable studies there. Thank you for sharing that. Neat.
Oh, sorry, I have another issue about horses, but that's another story entirely. I'll let that go.
Okay. So I put in the chat this website, and that's where you can read and study more about this Greater Santa Fe Recreation Partnership. And I'm just going to show you a few things about it. So our partners, we've got Santa Fe, Los Alamos County. We even have like the transit district, because they do bus service up to the ski area, and all the trailheads they'll stop. And so then we've got the Forest Service, Bandelier, via BLM, Department of Energy, and then we've tried to get representatives from all the different interested groups. And so this kind of gives you a picture. We've got like a leadership council of all these land management agencies. And here's where we had like all of these different groups. So like, this is trails, and trails just was by far the thing that we wanted to start with, because that was where we kept seeing the majority of interest. But we could do economic development, we could do communications, funding. We call this beyond trails. I mean, it could be other things, other topics. And so that gives you a little bit of idea of the structure, the potential of it, what the area is. And I've got in here, let's see if I can find it. So there's the map. What's tricky in here is because I have to like bring it down here to see the map, and then I can push it up, because like there's controls. So this is what it turned out to be. Originally, the Santa Fe area was just kind of here. And then we said, okay, well, let's add Los Alamos. We added that. And then we said, okay, we need to add the Caja. And then the Galisteo area was a little bit different. And then the Santa Fe area just kept expanding, where there was like the South Santa Fe, then we had North Santa Fe area, and then it's like just wrapped here, clear up to Espanola and around. So this is our current spread of areas. So there's really 4 sub areas: the Santa Fe, Los Alamos, Caja, and Galisteo. And of course, Los Alamos area, this here is that map I was showing you before. And so that's really is Los Alamos County right here. And with all the trails in that. And so here you've got the Via, here you've got Bandelier, and in here, this is the Jemez district on the forest. And a lot of people don't realize the lost treasure of the Caja area. It really is spectacular, and it's just right across the river from like White Rock. And that's a fantastic area. And then of course, got the Pecos Wilderness up here, which really isn't a part of it. It's a whole different kind of thing. But then we've got all the trails around Santa Fe in the forest, and then you're getting into the county. So that gives you an idea of what the the greater Santa Fe is. And so then we had, let's see, kind of a status board of, well, this is just something different. So this is what we've been working on just for the public, as far as improving communications of what's going on. And this happens to be the Pecos Wilderness. And right now it's a Google spreadsheet. We're looking to have like an actual like website, but right now this is how we can share some information as far as what's going on. People are saying like, how far can you get in the Pecos as the snow is melting? And so here we've got a place to post. It's like, oh, as of this date, it's clear. And we had a big windstorm. As you know, we've had a lot of windstorms this past few months, and so I'm really cringing as far as how many trees we'll find that are falling down on our trails. And as people, get out there and see it, they can report. We have kind of a common reporting area. So that's, I just wanted to mention that. Jennifer might be able to chat a little bit more about that. Then we've got these trail priorities that we came up with, and I'm going to like switch screens and then come back to this real quick and kind of show you on this map here. So, this with the concept trails and everything, and then I've got this priority projects. So what we did it was December of 2019, and that was probably the last time we were able to meet in person as a group all together before the COVID hit and we all got separated and dispersed. But we looked at all the sub areas, and I'm just showing what happened in Los Alamos, and when we did this exercise of voting, and that occurred over the summer of 2019, where on this website people could go and look at this bowl of spaghetti and say, this is the trail that's really important to me. And so with all those votes, we added them up to see as a group what projects floated to the surface. And so let's see, I've got this here, priority trails. So these that will come up in a moment in bright yellow are the ones that this group, and we had equestrians, we had hikers, we had mountain bikers, runners, just all the different user groups, and they all got together and we all talked for a couple hours. And so this is Wahi Ridge Trail, and that was an important one to folks, to especially at this end of it, where it's eroding, kind of narrowing down to goat trail. We have a whole lot of tree fall that is here. And then this is the North Mitchell that goes down to Wahi Canyon. We've actually got this year some Eagle Scouts that have volunteered to do a project to try to do what they can with it. But this trail that was built, I think it was in the 70s. His last name was Mitchell, and he did it as his Boy Scout project, a brand new trail, a quick way to the reservoir, and it got adopted and loved. And so there's been a lot of work going up from like Arizona Street to Wahi Ridge, but this going down the other end needs a lot of help, and so that floated to the surface. We've got this is the Camazon Trail that folks would like some improvement on. This is a trail that is right next to the trail going up to the Camp May ski area, and so it's one that the mountain bikers thought that would be really nice so that they could have a mountain biking path. And runners, hikers kind of like that too. Improvements on this whole Nordic ski and the trail to Cañada Bonita. And this is Trailhead. The equestrians said they'd like to have a better trailhead to park horse trailers here, because this would be a great area for them to do horseback riding. They also wanted that in the Valle as well. And then this is actually on DOE, and it's the only one that floated to the surface on DOE lands. And this is starting from that rifle range, that trailhead in Rendia Canyon, and then you drop down, and that drop down, if people have been on that, you know that it's really eroded, rocky, kind of difficult, and folks thought they'd like to see some improvements there. And then this, of course, is the rim trail that folks wanted. So there's other trails on the Valle, but I'm not going to get into that tonight. I'm just kind of showing you what floated to the surface on this group and where we are on it. So I'm going to again stop share here and go back to another screen and see if I can get it to show up. And let's see, I pick the right one, and it is in here somewhere. There it is. Okay. So this is the worksheet that we put together, and so they're all numbered. Like Trailhead, new trail is NT, and we gave it numbers and the scoring that they did. And coming here, this was our prioritization criteria. That was high interest, the access, connectivity, compatibility, the kind of experience you'd have, sustainability and safety. These were kind of the criteria for new trails. Here's the criteria for trailheads and signage. The interest, the access, capacity, sub area goals. So there's a lot there. This just gives you a kind of a real brief look at it. And then each sub area had its own group. And so again, you had Caja del Rio and what they were interested in, and here's the Los Alamos. And then these are the groups. We had equestrian, mountain biking, Los Alamos County, the labs, Bandolier, Park Service, and then these are the results of the scoring. And I'm going to try to move this. It's tricky. Then it totally went away, so I have to stop share for just a second and try to bring that back up. Okay.
Lynn, do you have a minute for a question?
Yes, it's a perfect time while I'm fighting with this ability to move this. Okay, go ahead.
Brad, go ahead.
Lynn, I was at those meetings and I know a lot of new trails were proposed. And I've got a question, because in looking at your priority map, all those yellow lines are, as far as I could see, are all existing trails. Is there
Yes.
no priority on any new trails? Is there anything going on with that?
No one voted on the new trails. People voted on taking care of what we have. And so,
Well, I mean, what do you mean voted on? Because you mean those trails, the new trails weren't put up for a vote? Because how would they know?
they were, yeah, they absolutely were. And I'll show you that if I can. Let me see if I can get this thing to cooperate, and let's see if I can move it. There we go. That helped. And then it just keeps going into this Okay, let's try this. And so, okay, I want to move it here. So, okay, now I can see what I'm doing. All right, so let me get back to about, and there is, so here's the, okay, there's the different meetings and the welcome, and then we have the trails planning process. And so this showed, what we did. We had, there's like one of our meetings, and this is kind of where all the different groups, but this is probably more what you're getting at, Brad, is the maps and comments. And so here, where throughout the summer, people looked at all these maps and they said, this is the trail that's most important to me. And as you saw, the one new trail actually is the one that's parallel to Camp May. So that is a new trail that came through. And so just because it didn't, come to the surface on this round doesn't mean like, oh, we'll never do it. This was just the things that would get us started. And so the idea here is that this group meets at least once a year. And sometimes I think the Arizona group was at least biannual or quarterly. And the group would get together because interests change over time. So this isn't like, okay, these are the only trails that we're ever going to work with, and it'll be 10 years before we'll ever consider something else. And that's not true. This is what we came up with during this meeting as, and we're actually looking at maybe like low-hanging fruit, things that we could actually do, things that we could get started on, so that it'd be like some momentum, some feeling like, okay, we're actually going somewhere, we're doing something. So a lot of these were maintenance, and or like there's that user trail already, and we wanted to convert that to a system trail and actually make it more sustainable. So I know, like Brad, one of your interests was the like the existing trail coming off of Pajarito, or maybe some other trails. So right, those didn't float to the surface, but again, it doesn't mean that it never will. And we are looking to get this group going, really soon, with another meeting to see where we are, and then maybe take another assessment of what's really important is to what we have from like December of 2019. Now we're in 2022. Is that still is that still representative? So hopefully that addresses what you're concerned about, but feel free to comment. I had to turn the light on so it got dark. Okay, so let's see what else we have here. Again, that was the Los Alamos map that folks looked at. And so you see all these purple trails, concept trails, they've got numbers and dots, and people had the ability to vote on all of this, and they did. And so these were the long descriptions of the trails. Okay, that was the sub areas. What else do I have here? The rankings and the notes, and then what would we actually do with them? And the green means that's something that maybe we could get started on right away. The yellow means like maybe it's like Jemez Mountain salamander habitat. So just give you a quick idea of the process of getting a new trail going. What needs to happen is, first, like, we need to see that there's full community interest in it, and like with this group, we could say, okay, here's a trail that folks want, and so we've got an idea and a concept. And if it's a really brand new trail, then we do, our NEPA on it, our scoping, our public discussions. We'd look at resource clearances. And if it was in Jemez Mountain Salamander, or if it was in an area with cultural resources, actually almost pretty much no trails in Los Alamos have ever really had a good survey, or any kind of survey. And so recognizing that, with our Great American Outdoor funding, we have lined up an army of archaeologists to come in the next year and pretty much try to survey all of our system trails, so that then it'll make it a lot easier to give the okay on maintenance of those trails. So that's one thing that's happening. And so from there, those take a lot of time. So if we're going to have like a lot of surveys happening, we have to get that like on our schedule of priorities. And so that we usually plan ahead. So if we had a new trail we wanted to do, we'll line up all these the surveys. We'll do the NEPA, whether it's an EA or CE, like that's a little more abbreviated. And then like if we have to do consultation with Fish and Wildlife season, we'll have that on the plan. We'll have that as a priority, and we'll be able to do it. So unfortunately, it's not like we just see something and just can start the next day, especially if it's in a sensitive area. So I'm going to go back to a share screen again on a different map and share here. So we've got an illegal trail going. Let me see if I get this a little bigger. Maybe not, but I won't worry about that. Anyway, it's right in here, and it'll take a moment to draw. So coming off Arizona on the perimeter trail, we've got these illegal trails. Well, that one's done, but this one in progress. So we've got our law enforcement people dealing with that, because they're just, it's just not good to everybody just like, oh, I want a trail here to start building it. Really, there's a process, and it's for protecting our resources, for having full resource protection. And if folks don't like it, that's been put in place by not the Santa Fe Forest, but that's just how our resource clearance and resource protection has evolved. So we're hoping that if folks feel like they're or know that they're participating, they're a part of the process, and there's peer pressure, that we'll all be working together and not against each other, which would be really great. So
Lynn, we have a question from
okay,
Jason.
go ahead, Jason.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you for putting this on. I appreciate the information. I would like to point out that I talked to a lot of different user groups, and most of them are very frustrated with Santa Fe National Forest in general, mostly with the aspect of what you just talked about. We're getting a lot of funding to improve our forest access, but all I see here is maintenance. And there's clearly interest in new trails. So it seems like the forest is not doing a very good job of engaging user groups. And I know it's very difficult to do that but I think there's a lot of bad history between user groups. I know a lot of motorized vehicle people would like to see Pipeline or Camazon reopened, or motorcyclists would like to see new trails more catered towards them. Bicycle, mountain biking, I know we just have a lot of different user groups that just don't really see much value with partnering with the Forest Service. And I'd like to also add that other parts of Forest Service, Moab, the groups out in Arizona, other organizations within the Forest Service seem to be able to get through their red tape, whereas Santa Fe National Forest seems to only use red tape. So I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I think Santa Fe National Forest has a more or less apology tour that they should be going out with and really evaluating how they can help, rather than we got a bunch of money and now we're just going to start maintaining trails when you have tons of volunteers who are willing to do that.
Right. Thanks for that comment. Like for this survey, we are starting with our system trails, because that does need to get done. But again, you're thinking like, let's move on to some of these new trails. And so let's get together and talk about it. I think that if we just say, well, Santa Fe National Forest is just isn't doing what we want, they're too slow, they're horrible. So what do we do with that? So we're certainly not where we want to be, and let's improve relationships. Let's talk together and let's sort it out. And so that's what we're kind of trying to do with this collaborative. And if we just said, oh, it doesn't work, it's horrible, shut it down, then where do we go? So if we can't get together and talk honestly about these problems and look for win-win solutions, then what do we do? So all I know to do is to move forward and say, okay, yeah, it's not been working. We're struggling. People aren't pleased with it. Well, let's improve. Let's talk. So I don't know if anyone else wants to comment on that from our forest team.
We've got a couple of more questions.
Hey, Lynn, could I comment real quick?
You bet. Thank you.
So I think I just wanted to kind of reiterate what Lynn shared. This collaborative was intended to highlight sort of trails program priorities and those exercises with the community coming together and voting on trail priorities. And so I will say that we have new projects underway on other parts of the forest. The way the priorities shook out with this Greater Santa Fe Collaborative in the Los Alamos area were focused on maintenance. And so as Lynn pointed out, that is not the next decade's worth of work. That's an initial step. And so I think if we can continue to have engagement from the community, that new trails are on the table, because like I said, we're undertaking those projects in other parts of the forest, including in the Santa Fe area. And then the other thing I want to say, as far as all the resources, the Great American Outdoors Act funds, which I think is probably what the question referenced, Lynn had mentioned the new resources. Those are pretty strict in terms of what we're allowed to use those on, and those are earmarked for maintenance of existing infrastructure. So they're not really legally available for new trail construction. So I want to clarify that. And so it's not to say that we have oodles of money coming to us and we're just choosing not to do new trails projects. We're having some legal requirements that kind of bind what we can use those funds for.
Okay, thank you. I do agree. Many trails do need maintenance, and I don't want to belittle that, but I definitely see other parts of the national forest that don't seem as hamstrung as Santa Fe National Forest, I guess, is my biggest one. So But yeah, thank you for trying to engage people, and I think that's the right path. I just like you to know that user groups are pretty fed up with trying to get things done.
Amy Rogers.
Yes, I just wanted to maybe add on to what was said by National Forest people, having been on that Greater Santa Fe Trails project. I think one thing to bear in mind is that the money and the efforts are addressing all of the sub areas that were shown on an earlier map that Lynn shared in terms of Caja del Rio, Galisteo, Santa Fe National Forest around the Santa Fe area, as well as Los Alamos. So that's a large area to cover and not a lot of funds.
Right. We actually don't necessarily have funds. Arizona uses a volunteer force, or there's various ways to get funds, but I think, you know, first settling with a plan, and then it's like we don't have like a set amount of funds and we're trying to spread it over all these different groups. There's different groups that will really concentrate on a particular area. We call them working groups. And then there's been various ideas. There's a word for it. There's like the ski basin, like Santa Fe ski basin, like a few dollars of people's tickets gets put into a pot for trail work. There's different ways to harvest funding. There's different grants, and then there's volunteers. So I think if we dream it, we'll find a way to do it.
Brad, you're next.
I would like to say add a little bit to what I think was it Jason, what he said, is that there is a large level of frustration among the user groups, and the reason is this: we just feel like there hasn't been follow through. We have. I'm very familiar with the Arizona, success stories. I've followed those. In fact, we go to Sedona, we make it out there once a year because of how phenomenal that area is. But the key was they followed through and they built it and they did all these things. They didn't just talk about it. And we have been asking, I've been here 8 years. And we've been asking we've made multiple proposals that never seemed to get anywhere. And all we ever heard was, well, we had to do this study. So we volunteered, well, Tough Riders will pay for the study. We keep trying to work with the Forest Service, and we just have always felt like there just hasn't been the willingness to actually follow through and go through with things. I mean, if we had started some of these processes when we asked to, yes, it's a long process and we understand that, but but you have to start it for it to happen. And that's what we feel it hasn't. And honestly, that's where you're getting your illegal trail building, because people feel like they can't come to you and say, we want to do this, and feel like it's never going to go anywhere. And so they take it into their own hands. And I'm not saying that's right, but I'm just saying that that's just how it works. And if we felt like we had a partnership with the Forest Service, I think it would stop. But there just isn't that trust. There isn't that feeling like anything is going to go anywhere. And,
well, Brad, I know that.
I'm sorry. And I'm sorry, and I don't mean this to be negative, and I'm hopeful, but I want this to be part of the conversation too, because we haven't done it well. So, for us to, we do have to work together. We do have to have these conversations, but they have to be real conversations about what's actually happening, not just kind of, this is what we hope to eventually change to.
Right, thanks, Brad, for that. I know that some of the trails that you wanted haven't had the support of more than just a few people. So that's a little bit of it, is that, again, we're looking for all the different user groups to say, this is what we want. And so I think you've been really frustrated that the ones that you've said to me, like, here it is, and that's been added into this, and it's never really floated to the surface. So that's one part of it.
Well, but keep in mind, we haven't, it's not like, oh, we're upset because our proposals didn't go through. No proposals went through. It wasn't, it's not like we're upset because, oh, the equestrians got all their trails built. No, nobody's getting anybody's trail built.
Yeah, good point. I mean, you're seeing the proposal on this map, and you're right. There's nothing that's really happened in the past year. We could say, well, it's been a COVID year, but we are wanting to move forward. So I think we're on the same page there.
I hope so.
So Lynn, we had a comment in the chat. If we want to help with trail work or further planning, how can we get involved?
Well, what a good segue into Jennifer's part here. So I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer to address that. Thank you.
Really appreciate your feedback. Definitely talking about this is important. So volunteering.
Jennifer, I'm not sure we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
That's a little better.
Oh, well, operator error, I suppose. Okay, so let me see here. Hang on, I'm trying to pull my computer closer. Yes, volunteering is an option, and we definitely welcome people helping on trails, and we've had a lot of good success in the past. So what can be done is we can coordinate some projects that need to be, the low-hanging fruit, as we've been calling them, that can be done. There's also the option of trail adoptions. We do public work days. We'll do work days with Peak. So I guess the thing to do would be to get in touch with me or Lynn, and we can go from there.
We lost you again.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess the best thing to say is to get in touch with myself or Lynn. There is a process. So we need a volunteer agreement signed for everybody. And there's the issue of safety, to make sure everybody's wearing their hard hats and being conscientious of that, and just staying safe out on the trails. So I think I know we're running out of time, so that might be the best thing for me to say, is just to get in contact, and we can make it happen. I know the Tough Riders are pretty busy with it, and Peak is pretty busy out there. And we do have that Boy Scout troop that wants to do some work, I think in May, on the North Mitchell Trail. So I could actually use some help to help them work on that. So if you guys could contact me, that would be great. I know David Hampton, you've worked with kids before. We're also doing a chainsaw training for those that want to clear trails. I know a lot of that's focused on the Hamas 50. There's also other trails, obviously, that have been taken care of quite well with volunteer sawyers. So that's March 12th. So talk to me if you want information about that. And if somebody wants to, I can put my email address in the chat. And that's all I have to say, unless anybody has any questions. Thanks for being here, everybody. Really appreciate this great conversation.
And then, we are looking to get a meeting going with the the group. So that's coming soon, and we want participation with that. So each group should have someone who's kind of maybe a leader on that, or who might come and represent the group. But we're looking for like everybody who's interested to join a meeting soon as well. So Bjorn's thing is highlighted. So maybe Bjorn has some words here. I'll let him jump in.
Yeah, I wanted to to chime in a little bit on the frustrations we're hearing about projects not moving forward. And I think that's understandable. I want to start by saying that folks who've been trying to work with us over the years and not seeing the results. And what I'd say is it's unfortunate that Sandy was not able to be here tonight. And I hope that this is not the last time folks are willing to come together and have these discussions. Sandy's quite new in her job, and so I think that's a great opportunity for the community to get to know her and to share your perspectives about the needs and opportunities with regards to our recreation program on the district and on the forest. And so I hope we have a kind of a constant churn of staff and a mix of some great folks who really know the landscape and the districts well, like Lynn. She said she's been here for 10 years, and we have newer folks coming in like Sandy who bring a fresh perspective. And so again, I hope despite the fact that some of you are communicating that you've been trying to work on seeing new projects come to fruition for some number of years now, that you take advantage of the fact that we have a new district ranger, and you keep the dialogue going and keep communicating. And I think, like Lynn said, there is a desire on all of our parts as the staff to serve the public and work together. So I just want to point out and just kind of say that we hear the frustrations and hope that folks are continuing to willing to engage in these kinds of conversations and these collaborative efforts like Lynn described with the Greater Santa Fe Partnership. Again, given that was the intent of that was to prioritize work, and unfortunately just in Los Alamos, the priorities were not new trails out of that exercise. And like I said, we had other sort of geographic areas where we do have new trail proposals that we're moving forward with, and and some that we're kind of queuing up into the NEPA process, little more in the planning stage. But I think we're trying, and takes a village, and hope everyone's continuing to willing to work together on all that.
Okay, I think I've gone through my agenda. If there aren't any questions, we can leave a little bit early. I can let Corey from the county kind of wrap us up here.
Beth has a question. Go ahead, Beth.
So I just wanted to say real quick that yeah, I appreciate what was being said and the frustrations. I know that at Peak we try to have those or one or more get-togethers each year
You're fading out, Beth.
Losing you, Beth.
How's that?
There you go.
Yeah, get a little bit closer or something.
Yeah, sorry, it told me it switched my microphone. Awesome. So I don't know. I just wanted to suggest something maybe that was constructive rather than towards addressing those frustrations. It's been over 2 years since I saw these lists and the priorities and the maps. And you said that the partnership, the coalition has met at least maybe twice or 3 times since that 2019 meeting. So I was hoping to see maybe a list of what was prioritized or suggested or requested in 2019, and then maybe what's been done since then towards completing those. I understand it takes a really long time to do the environmental assessments, and the pandemic must have made things extremely difficult for you guys. But like Jason and Brad said, we didn't really see that anything had been moved forward. So just maybe something that can be done to inform the people that want to be updated, since yeah, most of what I saw there was this happened in 2018, 2019. So just that might be an option of something to do next.
Thanks, Beth. An excellent option. I totally agree with that. I did put the web address link in the chat there that does show you the results of the voting, and this Greater Santa Fe group is aware of the need to get a meeting where we can really present, talk about, and move forward together, rather than let it die. And so I think probably folks want to hear, like, yes, the Forest Service has been slow. We've fumbled the ball or whatever. You guys have a great point, but let's move forward together, and showing where we are and then being able to step forward from that is a fantastic suggestion. So thank you.
If everyone would type their emails in the chat, I think we have a lot of yours, but if you would just do that so we can continue the conversation with this trail group user here in Los Alamos. Maybe there's a way to continue our conversations at a maybe a sub level, and continue the conversations with the Forest Service. Maybe that would be beneficial. So if you'll do that, that'll be helpful, and we'll have some conversations and figure out how to continue this conversation, and try to eliminate some of this bad blood or problems from the past. Maybe there's a way that we can work through and get a game plan going forward. I know there's several positive success stories. There's the one in Arizona. There, Moab has a trail keepers group. There was another one started in Colorado. So again, I think there's some opportunities to try to move forward and continue these conversations as we carry on. So thank you again for your thoughts and comments. And I would just almost, from my point, this is almost a restart, and we can get caught up and see where we're going.
Yeah, thanks for that. I was scrolling through these comments, and I think Jason said it's great to have a big community discussions, but what about more focused user group discussions? And yes, Jason, that is the plan. And maybe we'd even just start with that, with each of the subgroups. And so it's certainly, time is ripe to get our Los Alamos working group together. So thanks for that comment.
Any final thoughts, comments? Well, again, hopefully this is just the first of a rolling set of conversations that we can begin to make sure we're moving forward. I know a lot of our federal agencies have had challenges over the year. I fought a similar battle with the Bureau of Land Management a couple of years ago. We were able to get that ship in the right direction. So I think we're here. They understand our concerns, and I think they're ready to try to move forward. So we'll follow up in a few weeks about trying to get this little group going again. And again, I thank you for taking your time out this evening. If no other comments, thank you, and we'll see you later.